out on Front Street, this movie's basically a fucking funeral. But this is coming to us from Ryan Coogler. What? You just take it away, man.
Yeah, so Black Panther Wakanda Forever. As the podcast sort of fair weather Marvel fan, it falls on me to introduce our review today. So, I guess to me, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has yet to prove that it shouldn't have ended with Avengers Endgame. And its lineup of Phase 4 films and TV shows have sort of varied in quality, from entertaining digressions to misguided experiments that kind of has its audience asking, who exactly is this made for? And I don't know, I just haven't been impressed with their output since after Endgame. And I guess to tie it back to the first Black Panther film as one of the MCU's most unique films, it kind of proved that it's possible to have mass appeal and kind of clash that with an auteur director to create something more than your average popcorn fare. And so clearly the sequel has a lot to live up to. But I don't know, the death of Chadwick Boseman cannot be understated here. I find Black Panther Wakanda Forever to be a mess of a film, and try as it might, it cannot help but feel like a last minute scramble to pick up the pieces in the wake of the star's death. It's a massive 2 hours and 41 minutes, and it simultaneously feels as if it's moving too fast due to its characters constantly shifting motivations, but it also feels like a slog, having an abundance of navel gazing, staring off into the horizon scenes. And by its end, it has more in common with the really pretentious Eternals than it does the first Black Panther film, in my opinion. And I think there are worthy additions to the Marvel canon here, mainly in the movie's portrayal of Namor. But more so than the first film, Wakanda Forever feels like a piece of the larger Marvel machine, more determined to set up future storylines and spin-offs than actually tell a good story. And that's kind of where I'll leave it with my thoughts. But yeah, Chuck, what did you think of Wakanda Forever?
Slog is a good word for it. It's so weighed down by, Chadwick Boseman's death that there's really nowhere for it to go. It never lets go of him, even when they're, literally and metaphorically burning the robes to say goodbye. Because this movie, whatever it could have been with him alive and starring in it, that might have been a lot more interesting. I'd like to see him and Namor clashing as characters, because it just is so, it's limp. For all of its bravado, it's really a limp experience, just dramatically. What is the story even about? What is the conflict here? I just didn't really care. There was no gravity to what was going on. Like, Namor as a villain just doesn't really work for me. I know he's kind of an anti-hero always, but this is just a larger issue with Marvel movies, because since they need the big bad to unify the whole stable of characters against, who they face on a feature-to-feature basis often is pretty limited or milquetoast. And this really just kind of seemed like a silly movie to begin with. The bad guy here, as always, is the United States government, and Namor is right. They should just be uniting and fighting the white man. And it just kind of bugged me that that this movie isn't just going in the direction that its ideology so desperately wants it to, but that the capitalism behind the movie will never allow. It's kind of why we didn't get a second season of Lovecraft Country, because the second season of that show was literally just going to be black supremacist power fantasies, and that's not an exaggeration. But this movie just was a bunch of people being really sad. It has like 2 or 3 funerals in it, and we get to see them all. And that's like, this movie needed like 40 minutes cut off of it, and it needed some real, genuine stakes, not just the Wakandans, getting together to protect, United States government property because they're trying to mine vibranium out of the ocean. Because like that's what the final conflict of this movie is, on a mining rig, and it's being fought between these two, like enclave kingdoms that have been running from the white men for centuries. I don't know. There was just some discordance going on between the politics that inspired a lot of it and what they end up doing. Are you a little bath girl?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I guess I don't even know where to start now, but I guess I sort of like. I mean, I like the portrayal of Namor.
Yeah,
I
that
really
was
think
unique.
like a lot.
Yeah,
It was, yeah, and I think a lot of times with these Marvel and DC movies and even the comic books, every single Marvel and DC hero has a analog hero on with the other company. So a lot of times with these two companies making all these movies, it's just a race to see who can get their version of that character to the screen first. And then whoever does, they have the more unique spin on it. And so we've already gotten Aquaman.
we already have an
And
Atlantis.
yeah, we already have an Atlantis. So
Yeah.
I think that this was probably the best possible thing to do with Namor in this movie, because in the comics, really all Namor boils down to is angry Aquaman.
Yeah.
He's literally Aquaman, but he's pissed off all the time.
And he can fly.
and he can fly, yeah. And so it's like this was, I think, they treated the character of Namor well by sort of adapting him to sort of the Mesoamerican aesthetic, and giving him that, instead of Atlantis, giving him that sort of Aztecian city. And I don't know, I liked how he was done. I liked the actor's portrayal of him, his sort of he is like he can get angry, but he is sort of able to be reasoned with. And I guess at the end of things, I think a strong suit of these Ryan Coogler movies has been the villains, because I think Killmonger was a good villain. I still think of his death scene every now and then, as like something that was really well done in as far as like a Marvel movie goes, where he's, you've seen Black Panther 1, right?
Yeah, I saw that in theaters.
Okay, just want to be sure. But yeah, when he dies, and he has that sort of monologue where he's like, bury me in the ocean because, like my ancestors, I knew that being dead would be better than, living a life in bondage or whatever. And that was a really well done monologue. But anyways, back to Namor. I think it was good how they treated him as sort of the anti-hero, and I'm glad that he lived. I mean,
me too.
I'm glad that, it always seems like with these Marvel movies, the villains either die or are imprisoned and you never see them again. And so
for a second I thought he was dead.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Just because of how much fire got blown at him, I was like, oh no, here we go again. But yeah, and what did you make of like the whole dynamic that we're left with? Like as far as is it Tenochtitlan? How do you say it?
I think so. Yeah, Tenochtitlan.
Tenochtitlan and Wakanda. What other pocket kingdoms exist? Like, can we get a unity of of opposition to the colonizers? Is that an option in the future? Is that the direction this is going?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's also the obvious one is bringing in Latveria, I believe, is Doctor Doom. And because he sort of, Doctor Doom lives in much the same way as Black Adam does, where he has his sort of, pocket kingdom too that he rules over. So I think that would be the obvious thing to do. There's been rumors out there that before Chadwick Boseman died, one of the end credit scenes for this movie was going to be that, introducing Doctor Doom.
But unfortunately, because that's the thing, there's probably a server farm somewhere of all of the things that have been the assets and the rigs and animatics that they've made over the years that that don't actually get utilized. So like they have to go into the memory hole and be forgotten. I just want to break in there. I want to see all the things that never were. That sounds, because we have to get Doctor Doom at some point. We're getting a Fantastic Four movie soon, and that would have been a wonderful way to seed things, because the mid-credit scene for this, it didn't really inspire me much. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, it was.
No,
this movie was just a big fat goodbye. That's all it was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the rest of the movie, it's so preoccupied with mourning T'Challa, and that it was weird because it wasn't, these end credit scenes are usually, something to get you pumped for the next thing, but this end credit scene was so like it ended on almost like a down note. I mean, it was hopeful, but it was like, there was no like big stinger. It was just kind of like another scene. And I'll go back to saying that this movie is brought down so much by its sort of being put into the Marvel machine in a way that the first one wasn't, and setting up other things. I think by far the worst parts of this movie are those things. And what I mean by that is Riri Williams sucks. Yeah. She's a terrible character. She's a human girls in STEM brochure, and she's just not even a character. And I also think that
she's just there to have an Iron Man suit.
Exactly. Yeah. Multiple Iron Man suits, because there isn't one, there isn't two, there's 3 Iron Man analogs in this movie, and it's just like, why do you need all these? And but then on top of that, you have all the stuff with like Julia Louis-Dreyfus character and Martin Freeman's character.
I have no context for her character at all, because I didn't see Hawkeye, and I can't.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and because all of a sudden, she's there and she's got a purple tint in her hair, and I'm like, are you supposed to be somebody, lady? Like what is Elaine doing here? That's all I could think. But she got like one good scene with like one chilling line to me, which is where he's like, well, don't you think that if we had all the vibranium, that the rest of the world would be kind of like uncool with that? And she's just like, oh no, I think about having all the vibranium all the time. It gets me wet, and I was just like, oh shit, like this lady's being set up to be the villain at some point. And so but yeah, at the same time, all that shit just takes you out of what is happening in the movie. It's a pointless digression. It's like a 30-second scene that just pops in here and there that has those 2 characters in it because they're on contract and we got to plug them in somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, they should have kept the movie about, get rid of all the stuff that's set in the United States and keep it about Wakanda and Namor and sort of these two countries sort of warring with each other, because of all that stuff, that United States stuff, it makes all of the other stuff feel so like fast moving. And I hated one of the worst parts of this movie is how quickly things get wrapped up in the end, where it's just like, oh, we're cool now, and stop fighting, go home, never mind all the dead, never mind anything that happened before, we're all gonna go home, we're cool,
we're having a feast now. Like, the children are eating sweet rolls, that's where it goes. It turns into like an after church fellowship at the end of the movie. And it's just so sudden. Like, and I was gonna bring that up because that's one of the my complaints is, it's like it builds to what? You have this bang out, drag out fight. You have Namor taking everything that they can throw at him, just for him to be like, okay, fine, I guess we won't kill the colonizers today, and then everyone go home. We're cool now. And it's a wet fart when you think about how long of an experience it is. Like, at least with like a movie of comparable length that also was kind of a funeral, the Dark Knight Rises, at least that movie ended with a nuclear bomb going off and Batman dying, and then like packing in like an entire movie's worth of information into a 5-minute epilogue. Like that's a pretty ending to your movie. Bane gets murked at the end. You know, but I guess it's different movies, different eras, but you got to give me more if you're going to make me sit my butt in a theater for nearly 3 fucking hours. And just a bunch of, sad, proud black women, and, and like, the music though. I guess we haven't even talked about this, but the music in this fucking movie rules.
Yes.
I think you pointed this out in the document, but those were Aztec death whistles.
Yeah, he incorporated that. I watched a couple of behind the scenes things with Ludwig Göransson on YouTube, and he incorporated Aztec death whistles into like Namor's theme, and like seashells. Like he turned like seashells into like instruments and used those for like percussion, and he did all this crazy shit. And that's on top of everything else he does with these movies, because I give him a lot of credit for the sound of the first movie too, where he sort of incorporates. I think him and Kendrick Lamar were like the curators to the hip hop music on that score, and his sort of incorporation of sort of hip hop beats with a traditional movie score was just so well done.
Someone's yanking on the door handle. I'm not sure who it is. No, and that's what I didn't really know his background, but in researching for the episode, he comes up with Donald Glover as just sort of like a super producer, and now he's in the realm of making movies, whatnot. And I got it. The dog is destroying my door.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Ludwig Göransson is probably one of the better composers out there, because he did get his start as like a music producer, and he sort of found his way into doing movie scores. And his one of my favorites of his is probably his score for Tenet. He was sort of the Hans Zimmer stand-in for Tenet for Christopher Nolan, and he did a pretty good job of sort of emulating that style for that movie.
But at the same time, who was the rapper at the end of that? Who did the end credit song?
Oh, Travis Scott.
But at the same time, Ludwig Göransson is the genius who can be like, who we need for this to like really like complete everything for you, Mr. Christopher Nolan. Have you heard of this young man named Travis Scott? Like that's what you need. But I just, this movie just was so, it should have been an action movie. It should have been thrilling, but instead, even the score ultimately just kind of like at the end, we don't have that banger, Kendrick Lamar track like the first movie ended with. We just have a really sad song sung by Rihanna, and it just doesn't hit me. I don't know. I'm just not as like caught up in the emotion as I thought I was going to be, because those trailers sure put me in that place. But sitting out and actually watching the movie though, I was like, I just don't want to feel sad right now. I want to see the white man suffer, because I'm trying to, identify with the experience a little bit more. But at least. Well,
the one thing I will say that in terms of sort of the sad vibe they're going for, the one thing I will give this movie credit for is how they did handle the death in the movie. I think they did it about as tastefully as you could, by not trying to show him, not trying to make like a CGI recreation of Chadwick Boseman, sort of just having him
shitty mock-ups online, like some like fake.
Oh really?
Yeah, some like deep fakes that people have made. And for a second there, I was like, wait, like was that in the movie? And I was like, no, it wasn't. That was not in there.
Yeah, so I mean, doing it off screen, that was probably the best way they could have done it. And I did like how they sort of tailored the Marvel like intro with just footage of him. That was good, and it was just silent.
I know, like I thought there was something wrong, because I was like, there should be that signature score, like the Marvel theme. But so I understand why they made this all about him. Like you kind of had to, but eventually, it's got to be a fun time. I'm just not here to feel bad. If I wanted to do that, I would watch anything else.
the action, I mean, it should, at the end of the day, it should be at least partly an action movie. And I found it so forgettable. Like I'm struggling to think of like particularly, good action scenes or like moments. Like the only thing that really comes to mind is when, oh, what's her name? The main Dora Milaje, when she sticks the spear in the ground behind the car, and then the other car, like when it hits the spear, it just flips. That was kind of cool. But yeah, other than that, the action in this movie is very forgettable, and I struggle to think of particular moments. I mean, other than that spear thing, and I mean, I guess one thing that was kind of cool were those sort of like those water grenades that that Namor had, where it sort of just creates like a tsunami essentially.
Because that is the question. How do you make underwater civilization technology interesting when we're gonna have like 2 Aquaman movies here pretty soon? And
yes.
And the direction they went, with that, like we've said, it worked, pretty well. Like his warriors really did look fucking intimidating and scary. Like I love the production, design on this movie was pretty good. But my complaint, I think that the action doesn't really work because the CG sucks so bad. Like every time we see, the new Black Panther, when she's in that suit, it just doesn't look right. She looks too thin. Like she's like a piece of paper, like a 2D character jumping around. Because I think in real life she probably is that small, but when you animate her, it just doesn't look right. She's such that animation kit was just too ectomorphic. It didn't work for me. And I don't know if it was just like how I saw the movie, like the theater I saw it in is kind of just, they suck. I'll just say that. But every time they were underwater, I felt like I could barely see anything. And I know they were going for something in particular, but did you have that same issue?
I did. Yep. I was going to bring that up too, is that, I feel that they're trying to hide a lot of the bad CG behind shaky cam and then action scenes that are done at night, because the one in particular that I thought was awful was that like initial scene on the oil rig. And I think what was supposed to be happening was Namor comes up behind that helicopter and then grabs it by the tail and spins it around. But I couldn't see anything. I didn't know what was happening, and that, I don't know, it was just, that scene was so awful and dark, and I didn't know what was going on. And it was definitely not just your theater, because there was a lot. They were trying to hide bad CG. That was exactly what they were doing.
And so that begs the question, and maybe we brought it up earlier, but I'm not sure if we did, but how much because they previs these movies way out, how much of it's like, of it missing the mark quality wise with this stuff, with not only the action, but how the action is presented, is due to having to scrap the movie like partway through and cobble together something else. Like this was the best that they could get together at the time that they had, because all the animation houses in Hollywood are also working on 10 other projects that we're not going to see for 2 to 3 years. So I don't know. I think it just might be the crunch that this movie is they couldn't be a top priority for anybody. So they just worked with what they had. Maybe that's what was going on.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, it's just, they had so little time to rewrite the scripts, because they had all the scripts written, they had the ideas in place for what this movie was going to be, and they scrapped pretty much everything from what I understand. And it's just there's just a lot about this movie that feels, I guess the word I think of is compromised. And I guess let me ask you this. I do this a lot, but with movies that we shit on a lot, but anything in particular that you liked, other than, I mean, we talked about the score and we talked a little bit about Namor, but anything else that stuck out to you as being well done or anything?
Angela Bassett. I'm gonna miss her being in these movies. She's just she is a queen, and I really did like her performance and the emotion that she had. It's just too bad that the script and the movie itself didn't really give her much more to do beyond that. Like I think there almost should have been a civil war in Wakanda, and there should have been conflict from within instead of from outside. That maybe would have made it big. Game of Thrones this shit for me, please. Basically.
Yeah.
Like, but
you know,
yeah.
they almost had that too. I liked the idea, the premise behind the scene with Killmonger, with Michael B. Jordan. I like that idea of her, you know, having the vision, but instead of seeing any of her family, she sees him, and sort of how that reflects on her personality and her ideals and stuff. But then they don't really do anything that interesting with it, because like a lot of things with this movie, it moves so fast, and it feels like, you know, it happens, she deals with it, and then she moves on, and there's no real like lasting importance behind that scene.
How about you? What was something that you really liked?
Me, I would say, I mean, other than what I've already mentioned, I like that this is sort of a blatant fan service thing that probably had a lot of people scratching their heads, but when when you thought he was about to die and he says Imperious Rex.
Yeah.
that was awesome, because if people don't know, that's basically his like battle cry from the comics, and it basically means, I think it's Latin, and it basically translates, I have it written down here, it translates to Emperor King. And so that's kind of his like
okay.
his last sort of, because Shuri goes Wakanda forever,
Yeah.
and then he says Imperious Rex, and you know, it's sort of his last stand, his sort of last
Okay.
because you think he's gonna die, and it's sort of his last ditch effort to sort of fly in the face of Shuri. And I liked it because I think there was a lot of people in my theater that were like, what the fuck is that? Like, what does that mean?
I was thrown for a loop. I was like, did they dub that right? Or like, you know, because there was a subtitle that popped up, I think. Even.
Yeah. It said Imperious Rex, and because he said it in Latin. So.
Comic books, man. Because who created Namor? Was that Stan Lee? Who created the Submariner?
I don't think so. I think it was because I think Namor is a product of I think the 70s, I want to say. And I want to say it might have been, it's one of those Bronze Age guys, I believe.
I see. Okay. Well, yeah, that was Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. A little uneven, but if they're going to make a Black Panther movie, I guess they should make this one. They got to make something, right? They got to sell those toys. That's the important part. But yeah, is this something that people should see in a theater, Matt, or should they just wait for their really expensive Disney Plus subscription to bear some fruit for them?
I found it fun to see in a theater. It was I don't know about you, but my theater was sold out, and this wasn't even really a night show. It was just like in the afternoon, and so it was a fun movie to see with an audience. And I would say, especially if you're really in deep with these Marvel movies, you're probably already going to see it. And I would say, that it might be the only reasonable way to see this movie. A lot of it's very similar to Black Adam in that respect, where it's like, see it on the big screen or see it in 6 months when it's on Disney Plus, but don't see it in anywhere between those two times. Like, don't pay money to rent this. No. Don't see it when it's at like the cheap 8 foot by 8 foot movie theater, the dollar theater. Just see it now, or see it when it's on Disney Plus,
or see it never. The choice is yours and yours alone.
Yeah.